a love song.
Hi, I'm Felicia Mabuza Suttle, host of Conversations with Felicia. Today we are talking to a music legend in his own right. He is a two-time Grammy nominee, songwriter, producer. My gosh, so many titles. Producer. And what else?
Singer, tap dancer.
Guitarist, whatever.
Yeah.
Jonathan Butler. Jonathan, this interview is going to be centered around one quote that you once made. And this quote says, I live my life celebrating every day and every moment because there's been so much pain. Let's start there.
Well, it's almost, it speaks volumes of what I kept to myself all these years and how I expressed my life, my friends, my children, my music, traveling the world and seeing things. I grew up in a family from Cape Town in a shanty house in an area called Belgravia Estate in Athlone. And my memory of childhood was somewhat, it was pretty intense. 12 children, I'm the youngest. And we were all musicians, My father didn't work. I remembered, my father never worked because he was sick, very ill. My mother worked by herself. She did, she worked for a white lady in Mulberry in a hairdressing. My brothers and sisters were kind of scattered, talented but scattered and not focused.
In fact, I heard that your brother sang better than you.
That's what they say. You better step to it right now.
I know.
But we were poor. We were extremely, extremely poor. We had an outhouse for a toilet. We had no running water, no light, electricity. We grew up borrowing money and, the credit thing was there before I knew what credit really was. And being a young singer, I really, remembered, wearing clothing was having a nice pants was luxury, or not having shoes was normal. Regular violence in the home, alcohol, just disorder and chaos. And yet from that chaos was a lot of music, a lot of beautiful sounds came out of that house and out of that chaos.
Sing me a love song, baby, baby, baby. Sing me a love song. Ukulele, ikulo, la cola tapuna. Ukulele, ikulo, la cola tapuna. Your love song.
When my journey began as a young singer, it was a tough one. It was there was a lot of things that brought a lot of pain, and also growing up in South Africa during the apartheid era.
That's right.
That also was an added, thing that I just, so it's something. That's why I live in a bright red hairdo and a bright T-shirt, and I want to live my life with joy, and because of the things I said.
Did it all come out of what we call in South Africa the Coon Carnival? Did you go and...
I did the Coon Carnival thing. I also did a lot of local cabaret shows and variety shows. My parents put me in some of the shows. And, we were on welfare, so before I knew it, I wasn't in school at the age of 6 or 7. I was no longer going to school. I auditioned for a talent contest, which won me first prize to join the Golden City Pixies, which traveled South Africa every year for 8 months. So I grew up in an adult world, and I grew up with even in that there was a lot of physical violence towards me, and from a brother who did not know how to communicate, but instead of communicating with me, he would physically communicate, and so and I had the man on the guy that owned the play was sort of child molester in my opinion, so I had gone through all of that silent pain of being abused, not only physically but also sexually, and then being a young teenager, a young kid away from your parents, you just don't know what your days are going to be like. Let's put it that way.
And allowing that sexual molestation to take place, is that hoping that you'd get money to also get back home and feed the family?
Absolutely, because it was like, I felt my family life, my parents and my brothers and sisters, how we were structured, I think, was if the older didn't make it, the youngest should. And so when I started making money at the age of 50 Rand a week or 25 Rand a week.
That could buy a lot of
That could buy a lot of snook, a lot of bunkers, and a lot of
fat cakes.
And so it was, and more importantly, it was my heart to take care of my mother. It was like my heart to support my brothers and sisters in any way I could. I mean, my dream was to buy a house one day and move my mother into a home where there's hot water, electricity. She could turn the lights on and off. And so I was motivated and determined to help.
And I can see on that stage as a little young boy singing My Delilah and all the aunties and uncles throwing money on the stage. That's the best part.
The best part was people throwing money at me. And that's how I knew I was going to be a musician, because people threw money at me. So I said, oh my God, I know my profession now. But, all of those years, I mean, we would play in places, whites only, blacks only. We'd go to, I remember we played Pretoria. We played Marabastad one night, and we'll play the City Hall for the whites the night before. So all of those strange dynamics for a kid, who's out there by himself, was incredible.
Let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
Jazz, drugs, and Jesus. Yeah.
That's deep. Yeah.
It is deep. When I saw that headline, it really got me.
Well, it was kind of a place where I came to in my life where I was either going to go to hell.
So the jazz drove you to drugs.
Yeah.
And then the drugs drove you to Jesus.
Yeah. When I got to the drugs part, the jazz part was great because, I was learning from the great, the late, Alan Queller, Duke McCarthy and Stompy and all these guys, Bynum Rajabani, all these guys I grew up listening to. So it was great to kind of build myself up as a true musician. I believe that's key. People sing, but some of them are not musicians, And I wanted to be an all-round musician, and so of course that led me into the world of drugs, and that was always going to be the death of me,
I mean, there was a sentence there that I read. You'd lock yourself in the room, and it was coffee and drugs.
Yeah, it was just black coffee. I didn't want to eat. It was just black coffee and the occasional, piece of bread with a scrambled egg or something, if I wanted to or not, I just wanted to sit there and play and shut out the world. And I don't know what it was that was motivating me, but I think there was a lot of people around me whose spirits were perhaps not trying to get out and fly. So I was caught up in that nest of some of that.
We're talking right now to those young people who are really caught in that web right now, and we're trying to get them out. How did you get out? This call from a stranger.
Yeah, I got a call from a stranger. It was really weird because it was across the street from my house, from the house I was renting, a room I was renting from, and the call came, and somebody from Port Elizabeth wants to talk to you. And I was like, from Port Elizabeth? So, that morning I had my first pipe for the morning, and I walked across the street, and this guy introduces himself, and he says, "Hey, my name is so-and-so, and I just had you in my heart today. I want to tell you that God loves you. Jesus Christ died for you, and I'm your number one fan." And, this guy went on and on and on, and I'm like, "Listen, man, it's far too early to have this conversation with you, And lo and behold, like a month after that conversation, I went to PE, and there I met this young guy at the airport, who then became my brother-in-law.
Wow.
Yeah, he's late now, but he became my brother-in-law. And he kind of discipled me, to the cross, to receive Christ. And I thought I had nothing more to lose. I mean, it's either go to hell in the helicopter or, find some other way to get better, So I went with him to a little coffee bar, a little meeting, where young people were like my age, talking about God and Jesus. And I, that night, committed my life to Christ, and the rest is history.
Talking about unique sounds, I would say there are 4 unique sounds from South Africa.
Yeah.
You could put them behind Table Mountain, or you could put them in a room and just say, "Do your thing," and people sitting on the other side will know who it is.
Yeah.
Hugh Masekela's trumpet.
Sure.
Miriam Makeba's voice.
Of course.
The sound of Lady Smith Jonathan Butler's guitar.
Well, it's an awesome thing, because our music is very, even in the movie Torture the other night, I heard this guy, Olivia, from, I think, Zimbabwe. Just in the background, I heard this music. And I said, wow, this is Olivia. In the background, I could hear something. And our music really is spirited, I think. And it's always testifying, I think. So when you hear Hugh Masekela playing, it's almost like somebody testifying. It's really something that keeps growing on you.
What are you, a jazz singer, pop artist, R&B, kwaito?
Well, I like kwaito. My kids, they didn't grow up in South Africa, but they love kwaito. I'm a world musician. I'm inspired by guys from Cameroon, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Brazil, American stuff. I mean, it's world music. That's what I believe it is, gospel as well. I mean, I'm so connected to that too. So it's just being a world musician. And I think most South African or African musicians, I think, are world musicians,
Any similarity you see between American and South African music?
It's growing constantly. I mean, it's growing every day. I hear, there's this reggaeton music, which is the Latino kind of hip-hop thing. And kwaito is very similar to that. And so now it's all becoming, even in R&B, they're taking stuff from India, they're taking sounds of rhythms. So it's becoming a one world, Perhaps one of these days there'll be no more genres of music, there'll just be world music,